Attractive teachers of Reddit. Did you know which students had a crush on you? And what is the strangest or most inappropriate thing you overheard said about you? French teacher here. Teenagers are just constantly inappropriate and need very little encouragement. I got asked to prom. Had boys tell other teachers that they thought I was hot. Had a parent accusingly tell me that she now understood why her son loved French. Which I took to mean that my innovative skill set had inspired him. I didn't mind though. It meant that I had a class with 12 previously disengaged 16-year-old boys come back for extra homework and revision classes every lunchtime and after school, and every one of those bags of hormones passed. My sister, who is a teacher, has turned down dozens of proposals from 6-year-olds. When I was in junior high, there was a guy who I honestly couldn't tell where he stood in the popularity hierarchy. But he always thought he was hot tea. Well, we got an influx of 24-26-year-old female teachers which he, for the most part, hit on, which he was flatly denied. He didn't take no for an answer and proceeded to sexually harass and then assault 2 of the teachers. Not sure what he said, but he grabbed one's ass and tried to dry hump the other. That's F-kid. Not really attractive at all and didn't notice a thing till I asked, in a college lab, "Are there any questions?" And this one guy, older student, about my age, raised his hand and said in front of the whole class, "Yeah. Will you go out with me?" So that was kind of a clue. I teach 7th grade, so I had a boy come back from the book fair with a freshly purchased set of bouncy balls. He proudly held them out and asked if I wanted to touch his balls. Another time I had a 7th grade boy get down on one knee and ask me to the Valentine's dance while handing me a note. He had taped a Nestle Crunch bar to the note. I had one of my high-functioning autistic students tell me straight up that all the moms call me handsome last elephant. Insert my last name that begins with an H. Keep in mind this was in the middle of a lesson on the French Revolution. And I had asked a question about the bourgeoisie. He raised his hand and came out with that gem. Edited for poor writing, thanks. I'm probably too late on this, but a year 10 boy got suspended for taking and sending Snapchat photos of my ass whenever I was helping a student in front of him. It was another boy who showed me and said he wasn't happy with me being disrespected, which was nice. Oh lord. Before my breast reduction I was a timid TA with 34H boobs at a high school. Surprisingly it was girls I heard most of the comments from. Guys mostly just stared. Anyway, the worst, and certainly weirdest, was when I was watching over a homeroom and pretended not to hear a group of girls talk about a rumor that I had let several male students tit-ck me one after another. And because my boobs were so big, I guess the cum pooled up in my cleavage and in the end I sucked it all out with a straw. Yeah. More than anything I was amused by how they thought tit-fking worked. I have substituted and tutored kids at the high school where my mom teaches. There was a girl that started referring to her as her mother-in-law. That got pretty weird. Among several personal questions was, "Do you have a girlfriend?" And once a student called me honey. It's especially a key because they're just 8th graders. Edit. I feel obliged to defend my students given the general character of anecdotes featured in this thread, so none of my kids are unscrupulous little sex-crazed monsters or pre-skanks or anything. The subject and method by which I teach is by necessity more personal and social than typical, and so there's bound to be a girl here or there that crushes on teacher a little bit. They're good kids. I'm not a fan of honey unless they're in their 60s. On my first day as a middle school intern, one of my students told his friends, "Miss Turn Off the Century is mine." I walked behind his seat right as he said it and he just about died from embarrassment when he figured out that I heard him. One of my high school students told me that my intelligence was SI. That was one of those moments where you look for another adult who can verify, for any potential future record, that you weren't just creeping on that particular student. I'm a student teacher and was asked if I was an 8th grader by a student in my first week teaching. Which doesn't make me attractive, but it does make me seem more age appropriate for my middle schoolers. I work with kids with special needs and I knew that one of the boys, nonverbal, had hit puberty when he came over to me and gently kissed my forearm and then made his happy noise. It's kinda like a zishha. Which lead to a new rule that we don't kiss teachers. It was kinda cute though. He's not one for affection in general. Kids or young adults thinking that an older authority figure is attractive is fairly normal and common, but it can get creepy if it gets too close. I had a young teenage boy get a little too informal familiar with me when emailing me over time. As students can do if they need to. He ended up sending me a picture of an anime character who had the same hair color as me, wearing a small bikini. He commented that he liked the show series she was from because he thought I looked a lot like her. Brakes gotta be slammed right there. Or you are his waifu. You know when he gets hair on his neck. He's old enough. Teaching English as a second language. Had a 14-year-old girl say I want to eat you. I jokingly asked with a laugh, you want to eat me? Apostrophe. She stared me dead in the eye and said yes. Awkward. I'm a primary school teacher. The girls will just come and find reasons to be close to you. Stand next to you and lean into you. Try to lock arms. Hug you. Etc. They'll say that they really like you. They try to touch my beard too. I go to the gym a lot and I'm starting to get decent looking body. They ask me to show them my muscles or if I have a six pack. Etc. That can get pretty weird. One time a girl brought in a plastic rose for me on Valentine's Day. That was the sweetest one and I've actually still kept that. Funnily enough, it's the only thing I've ever received on Valentine's Day. I'm not a teacher. And I may be too late to the party for this. But when I was in high school there was one particular male coach who got lots of female attention. Girls would come by his classes just to say hello. They'd stop and hug him in the hallway. Sometimes get in trouble just to get put in detention because he oversaw that for a while. Just being around witnessing this shit was crazy to me because I had never, and still to this day have never again, seen girls just throwing themselves at a guy and fawning all over him. It was like this coach was a goddamn rock star. Later when I was in college I learned that he went to jail for banging like all of them. I'm not bad. And frequently the youngest female teacher my students have ever had. I teach middle school. So 13-15 or 16. It's funny. The boys that actually have a crush are super obvious about it but they just act embarrassed and think they're hiding it well. Lol no. The most inappropriate comments I've gotten to my face are, come to a love hotel with me, Japan. Love hotel equals pay by the hour. What position do you like? And just a straightforward, have sex with me. All of those several times in both English and Japanese. Shut those down real quick. Overheard comments. Mostly they just talk about my boobs lol. Edit. Some details. M's. Posh from grade 10 social in 1994. If you're reading this, I love you. I'm not a teacher. But my friend is. He teaches special ed math. One day after class, he found a note left on the floor. It was written by an 8th grade girl he taught. And it read, my math teacher is hot. And he has a big butt. Double bonus. Guess she likes big butts and she cannot lie. I had a hot English 101 teacher. She was obsessed with Van Halen. One day she was going to give out extra credit if someone could guess her favorite song of theirs. I didn't think of hot for teacher until after class. No one did. I think about it all the time. I was not attractive. But freshman girls still crushed on me when I taught at uni as a grad student. I would have thought they were just flirting for grades. But they were always the nerdy hot type that already earned good grades. One called me DR. Told her I didn't have a PhD. Called me prof. I told her I was just an instructor. She asked if she could call me professor anyhow. Then she asked if I'd like to get a drink. Told her to ask again when the class was over if she was serious. She was. She called me professor. It was a really great score for a guy who looks like a catcher's mitt. I have a fresh out of college gym teacher who every girl at my school is nuts over. They are not sly about it either. Pretty much knows that he gets all the girls' panties wet. The girls pretty much tell their other teachers I would be the ham in that manned sandwich, nobody really cares. I would be the ham in that manned sandwich. What does that mean? Even? I wouldn't say I'm attractive. But being a TA in college, a lot of girls get flirty for favorable grades. Some try harder than others. Then during office hours right before the final, girls will be coming in with push-up bras and tiny shorts like that's going to work. Once I subbed for my buddy's high school class and one of the girls sat front row center giving me the FCK me eyes the entire hour. It was a little uncomfortable. The most inappropriate thing I've overheard said about me wasn't sexual, but rather about my military experience. Just spreading untrue rumors. But rather about my military experience. Just spreading untrue rumors. Did they say you graduated top of your class in the Navy SEALs? Maybe that you were involved in numerous secret raids on Al Qaeda and have over 300 confirmed kills? Or was it the fact you trained in guerrilla warfare and are the top sniper in the entire US Armed Forces? I used to teach high school math in New York and a good college friend of mine taught high school chemistry in Florida for a couple of years. He's a pretty good looking dude. We used to swap stories, but he has one much better than all of mine. One Valentine's Day after school was over, he returned to his science classroom to find a card on his desk. On the inside was written, "I want to periodically bang you on this table." Also there was a small bag of cocaine inside the card. Naturally he chopped it up on his desk and did the whole bag. Just kidding, he went straight to the principal's office and gave him everything. The principal did it all afterwards. Okay, 2 stories. One of my friends who is a bit awkward would always say "I love you" to an attractive teacher, typically once or twice a week. At first she would react to it by saying things like "What? Why? Stop it." Then her reactions became a bit less noticeable, and during the last week of school she said it back and his face lit up like you wouldn't believe. 2. A male student 18 and female teacher 22 met in school and later got married, so that was a thing. Your teacher from 1 probably wanted to give your friend a good memory before leaving. So not me, because I am not attractive and B, teach in an elementary school, but I have watched students do so throughout my high school and college career. I've witnessed this. The worst was in college with my theory teacher. He was 29 and a couple of the other girls had huge crushes on him. Sometimes staff would attend the parties and one girl in particular would sit on his lap and flirt shamelessly. To be fair, I think they actually dated secretly for a bit. I mean, he let her sit in his lap. So, not crush related. But when I was a senior in college, taking a 400 level policy course, our nerdy hot professor uploaded an enormous amount of nudes to our class's online portal. That was an interesting hour and 45 minutes the next time we had class. Edit. No, I didn't save them, you pervs. After school teacher. Not attractive, just average. Had a kindergarten boy come up to me and go, "You're so cute." Finally something I can answer. I teach junior and senior high school as a substitute teacher. I graduated a year ago, so haven't landed a full-time position yet. I've had multiple grade 10 students write inappropriate comments on my formal evaluations given out during the last day of my final student teaching practicum. These included: I want to have sex with M's. Teacup grid M's. Teacup grid is hot S I cute, I want to FCKU. All caps for extra emphasis. Close bracket. During my first student teaching practicum I had a grade 9 student who was a good foot taller than me block me from leaving the doorway when he repeated asked for a hug. I had another grade 9 student slap my ass. I was so surprised I honestly didn't know how to handle it. Teaching is fun. I'm a tall, lean beanpole of a teacher. But students seem to think I'm sleeping with another teacher. I'm not. I actually hate her. Overhead, a 12-year-old girl tell another 12-year-old girl she wanted to cut my cock off and wear it as a necklace. Oh. A student raised his hand while we were going over homework in class and said, "Miss, I have a question." I said, "Let's hear it." He pulled out a boombox from under his desk, pressed play and stood up on the desk. Just as he did, Backstreet Boys' All I Have to Give came on, and with his arms outstretched he asked, "Will you go to prom with me?" I turned so red I had to walk out of the room. It's pretty obvious when a student has a crush on you. If they're not doing something like this, they are blushing and struggling to get a sentence out when you're working with them in class. I was a building sub for a high school last year. There's one girl in particular that springs to mind. She would find out where I was subbing for the day and drop by a couple of times. One day, after passing her in the hallway and saying good morning, I very loudly heard, "My God, he's so fine." Ignored it and kept on my way. Another time, she came to talk to me in between classes and I told her to get going before she was late. She walked to the door, stopped and said, "By the way, MR. Chocolatifer's. No homo. But you have a nice butt," and walked away. Definitely made sure to keep my distance after that. No homo? Why? Wife is an attractive teacher. She can definitely tell which students have a crush on her. High schoolers are not subtle. She was asked to be a +1 to somebody's wedding once. Then the student reminded her the law was after 90 days post-graduation they could date. Also, when the guys find out she's married, they ask only the polite questions and give non-committal "that's nice" responses to the answers. I graduated high school almost 4 years ago and had a crush on some of the ugliest mothefkers. I can tell you, it has nothing to do with attractiveness. Not me, but my friend got so embarrassed. Basically, our English teacher is an absolute babe and she was walking towards us on the way to class, and I say to my friend really loudly, "Hey X, what do you think of Y?" And he goes, "Oh my god, she's an absolute babe. She's practically perfect. I would love to be her fiance." And I pissed myself laughing, and when he turned around he sees her and goes blood red. And I'm near certain he made the cross with his hands. I mean, at least he didn't say how much he wanted to FCK her or anything. That's pretty complimentary if you ask me. He wasn't disrespectful or anything. As far as middle school high school compliments can go when talking about a hot girl, that is. Had the 7th grade English teacher working in my middle school. She was young. Like 22, going to spring break parties type of young. Well, one day some kid was distracted during class. Apparently, from what he and other guys said, was that she didn't bring a bra to school. Though that one kid was mostly distracted looking at her breasts than paying attention. Later on during the lecture she went over there to talk to him and he just kept staring while she talked. My sister is an attractive and overly nice 24-year-old teacher, grade 7, so it definitely happens a lot. Last semester she started noticing stuff going missing from her desk, like her sports bra from her gym bag, but thought it must just be her carelessness. About a week later, her boyfriend, also a teacher, noticed her light was on and went to go check. He found one of her students, belt unbuckled, standing in front of a pair of heels that he rooted through her desk drawer to find. Now, if that wasn't creepy enough, you have to know her feet stank. Like I lived her for 18 years. It was like mayonnaise and tuna broiling out in the summer sun. Still don't understand that kind of desperation. Not a teacher, yet. But we had a student teacher in our high school band that definitely had the interest of lots of the girls. Then again, I probably would have gone gay for him too. We had a student teacher that practically all the girls drooled over. He helped out with pay and all the girls would try to get out of exercising or whatever. I was about the only one who didn't make a fuss over him because I was more interested in improving in our golf program, which he also helped with coaching. He would call me out during pay to discuss clubs, scores and courses. I was totally oblivious to him flirting with me and just thought the other girls were mad because I had something in common with him and they didn't. Wasn't until after I graduated high school and saw him in town that he told me he had a crush on me. Looking back at my high school years, I was pretty oblivious to a lot. Yes. It's pretty easy to tell, lol. Not the strangest. But the most upsetting comment I've heard was she ain't that good a kisser. Upsetting because a student said it. Or because it just isn't true. I was friends with a girl in middle school who had a crush on our 7th grade health ed teacher. She TA'd for him the next year and told us that she spat in his coffee every day because it was like she was kissing him. I don't think anyone ever told him. I'm an attractive female high school teacher, and OMG do I ever hear stuff said about me. They don't seem to realize how much their voices carry. The one that amused me the most just seemed to not make sense. The boys were waiting for the bell to ring and I was at my desk using my computer. Students assume when you are using a computer you are sucked into some kind of vortex where your ears don't work. They were talking about how hot I was and one kid said, "Yeah, I'd love to cover her in chocolate sauce and rage FCK her." I had so much trouble not laughing. Not a professor, but freshman year of college I had a friend who I went to chem class with, and every day she would constantly talk about how hot our professor was. Just here to make sure my prof doesn't know I have a huge crush on them. Not a teacher in that sense, but an instructor who trained me in basic training would get flirts from a guy of his squad. He laughed it off, but that guy who flirted with him meant it. That takes guts. This is my wife's 3rd grade teacher story. But it's one of my favorite. One of her co-workers was monitoring her class and overheard a student saying MRS. BTCH Stuiasuirusi. In shock she told her student that is no way to talk about a teacher. The student paused for a moment in confusion and replied, "But I wasn't talking about you." I'm not a teacher, but I think this is still relevant. We had an annual tradition of end of year skits in my program in high school. The skits revolved around roasting the teachers for their quirks. There was no holding back because the teachers involved were chill with us, advanced program students who liked learning, and occasionally it went too far. One year we had a new teacher who was smoking hot and couldn't come up with things to mock her about. All we could do was try to joke about how nice she is and some meta jokes about how hard it is to make fun of her. It turns out one group created a good line to use for her. In his most racist Asian accent, he was Asian himself. One guy looks her straight in the eyes and says, "Are you sure you teacher? 'Cause damn girl." At this point the room was howling with laughter. All the guys were agreeing with him. And this teacher turned beet red. Her face never truly stopped blushing after that one. Here I am scrolling through this thread praying I don't see a comment from my 11th grade American history teacher detailing how I told him he has a nice ass. Hey. MR. Uber. Sorry about that. Anatomy and physiology class. Cat dissection week. Class lets out and the senior girls run down the hall shouting, "MR. Touched my PSSY. He stuck his fingers in mine. Dot." I used to tutor an Italian girl one-on-one with English. We had a good 9 or 10 months with great progress until she sent me a photo of her in the gym. Then a photo in the changing rooms. Then a photo in her bedroom. All very suggestive and dirty. I had to let her down. It wasn't right or professional, and I'm very glad I did the right thing. I'm a female HS teacher who was coaching softball too. I said, "Here, let me teach you," to a girl who, as I found out, had a crush on me. How to hold the bat. She said, "There's a couple other things I'd rather you teach me," and just quietly backed away. My last year in high school we got a new male teacher. Gorgeous man, honestly. I don't know what he taught, but he ended up sending quite a few girls to the office to Snapchatting photos of him to each other. One girl asked him if he would sleep with her. He ended up switching schools after the first semester. A damn shame. Apparently he was a great teacher. And there were rumors he had already moved from another school because of the same issue. I'd be pinned down by her. I've instructed 3 years of freshman students and 2 years of master degrees. And I haven't gotten the slightest hint that any of them were interested in me. Not the attractive teacher anymore, but 10 or so years ago when I was younger and hotter. walking down the corridor. On the way to my office when I overheard the girl in front of me remark, "Yes, I have the two hottest teachers next." Being the arsehole that I am, knowing I was one of them, I asked her who they may be. She didn't back down, looked me straight in the eye and told me that it was me and one of my good mates. I still recount this story regularly amongst my teacher friends, recalling the good old days when I still had my looks.